You're listening to the Patriot Nation Podcast.
All right, welcome into a special edition, a Pats Nation Postgame Show. As always, brought to you by Prize Picks and Game Time. And here we are today, Matt. I guess it's not even today anymore. It's Monday now. But the Patriots finish out the preseason for them and the entire NFL by losing to the Commanders 20-10. Some really, really good things about this game, some really, really bad things about this game. So a little bit opposite ends of the spectrum here.
Yeah, this game was interesting because, well, first of all, it's like the lone Sunday Night Football appearance the Patriots are going to have this season. Didn't realize this was like the dress rehearsal for Tirico and Collinsworth. But
they were awful. They were awful.
It was funny. They clearly were just like, they knew it was a dress rehearsal and they were just having fun with it for themselves and just like
they were just like riffing. They kept talking about Joe Milton. I mean, the funniest thing for me is like Tirico said to Collinsworth, like, when he threw that pass on the side, I like grabbed your arm because I was like, what a throw. And I'm like, bro, his guy had 4 steps on his defender. It was a touchdown. And he overthrew him by 12 yards. Like, it was a terrible pass. He's got a great arm. So what? Like, what are we talking about?
God, that was so funny. They were clearly just there to have a good time and get back into the swing of things for football season and do all that stuff. Game started off not so great, then very quickly became exciting, and then went right back to not so great into like the we're going to be 0-17 territory pretty quickly. So do we want to start with the Jacoby Brissett of it all?
Yeah, I mean, the Brissett thing, I mean, I think that's where to start, right? He looked okay when he was out there, right? And then, of course, he takes that shot on – I don't know what that play was. I don't understand what they were doing. So Layden Robinson and Mike Onwenu blocked down, which left a defensive end, I believe, completely unblocked, who just ran straight in. And Layden Robinson got pushed back, so ran into City So, who was pulling to block that unblocked defensive end. But no one was there because he ran into Layden Robinson, and so he just murdered Jacoby Brissett. And it was just like, I didn't make any sense.
I think what it was supposed to be was some kind of a play action tight end screen, because they were trying to fake a run to the right and set up a screen back to the left to Jaheim Bell. But what happened is you just had a bunch of offensive linemen from the left side trying to go to the right to sell the run, while guys from the right are trying to go left to set up the screen. And when Layden Robinson gets pushed back into City So, you just you lost that side of it, and you couldn't set up the rest. And I think if they were able to get the ball over to Jaheim Bell, I think he had space from what I could tell, but never had a chance. This is also, I will say, with other concepts, at least in the West Coast bootleg stuff, they will leave unblocked defenders, hoping that the run action is what's going to keep them at bay. And I think that was the thought here, and they weren't expecting the guy to come in fully blitzing as well like that. He didn't get sucked in by the run at all, which I think threw things off too.
He did actually slow down. He did slow down when he saw, I don't know who the running back was that crossed his face.
I think it was.
I think it was Hasty, right? Crossed his face. He kind of slowed down and then just sped back up again. There was no one there to block him. So he was just like, I'll just,
because you're hoping that he's slow off the snap so that guard can come over and get him. But he was just
flew
fast off the snap. And so I think it was a little bit of just like the play design not happening to work because of what the defense did. And like you just get unlucky, but a little bit of poor execution mixed in as well. And I think Brissett takes a shot, stays in the game. They say he's questionable to return. Mayo did say afterwards that if it was a real game, he would have stayed in and there wouldn't have been an issue. So I don't think this is going to change anything for week 1, at least based on health. Jacoby Brissett is going to be your week 1 start. Maybe performance-wise, they decide to go to Drake May, which we could talk about here. But
I mean, Gerard Mayo said Drake May was the second best quarterback on the roster. Those words came out of his mouth tonight.
But
that's not definitive.
Well, he did also say in the same thing that he hasn't watched the film from tonight, and he always reserves the right to change his mind.
Yeah,
so, like,
right.
We'll see what happens. We can discuss who we think should be starting. But health is not going to be the deciding factor for week 1, I don't think.
For the quarterback position, at least.
For the quarterback position, yes.
We'll get into some of those things, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought the offense looked a lot better when Drake May came in. And from on-field performance things, I think there's some issues that Drake May has to clean up still. But the team looks better when he's on the field. This is the second straight preseason game where that's been the case. And I think from a purely on-field play point of view, it is hard to make an argument not to be playing him right now.
I agree with you. I also think that, and I think it has something to do with Drake May as well, but KJ Osborne was in the first drive, and then Jalen Polk was in the second drive. And I just think the offense looks better when Polk's out there as well, right? And so I think that Polk has kind of earned that starting spot and should keep that starting spot. Osborne had a nice play earlier, a nice play later. Obviously, he had the long touchdown that was nullified by Chuke's 14th illegal formation penalty. But I think the offense runs better with Polk in there as well. So, and look, again, is May 100% ready? No. And maybe they're looking at it just saying that we don't care. Like, they might look at it and say, we don't care if he's better than Jacoby Brissett right now. We don't care. That doesn't matter. We're going to put him out there when he's ready to play. Not when he's better than Jacoby Brissett, when he's ready to play. Yeah. And that's something that the rest of the team might not like. And I don't blame them because those guys are all trying to fight for jobs and, everything else as well. But, at the same time, it's like that's the most important position in football. And if you have the right guy, it goes a long way. And if they think that, it would benefit him from sitting, even if it's for half a season, then I'm okay with it.
Well, I think you said it best. You said like they want him to play when he's ready. I think it's a quarterback competition, but it's almost May competing against a set of expectations or a checklist or something. Like they want him to hit certain benchmarks consistently in practice. I think as far as we can tell, and that's how he's going to earn this. I think outside pressure will probably impact it to a degree. It always does with these things, especially because May is playing well, but also May's playing well. And at a certain point, you're just going to put the better quarterback in. Even if it's not perfect, I think you are going to see him out there, and they're not going to ask him to be perfect before he's out there. I did notice, because I do want to talk about the good of Drake May, but if we want to talk about the areas for improvement, there was one play where he didn't get the guys out of the huddle until there were, I think, under 10 seconds left on the play clock. They get up to the line, and they just basically had to snap it. I think May threw it away or threw it at somebody's feet. I don't remember exactly, but it ended up being a kind of a dead play because of that, which I think is tough. Obviously, a number of bad quarterback center exchanges and 2 incidents with an offensive lineman stepping on Drake May as he's getting out from under center, I believe, unless one of those was Leverett stepped on someone. I don't remember if that was May or if that was Brissett.
Can't remember, but Might no, May got stepped on twice, one on a
Okay.
handoff, one on a pass.
So it was May twice, and I wouldn't assume offensive line is at least partially to blame for that. But if you're looking at cleaning up the operation, those are areas for Drake May where I bet the team wants to see him improve, and they might not put him out there until they think, hey, there's no situations where he's getting out of the huddle under 10 seconds. Like, we want to be faster on that, which I think he talked about in the post-game presser too.
True.
Because he looks good when the play's working.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing with him, like, look, the bad snap on the ground, the shotgun snap at the beginning of that first drive, that's on Leverett, right? That's a bad snap.
Mm-hmm.
Fine. Anytime the quarterback is under center, a botch snap is on the quarterback. Just assume it's on the quarterback. Now, sometimes if the guy doesn't bring it up far enough or something, like maybe, but 99% of the time it's on the quarterback. And so, if you botch a snap under center, it's on you. And so, of course, Leverett looked awful, like awful tonight. But
which we'll get into the offensive line once we're done with the quarterback stuff.
Yeah. But anyways, that's a big part of what they want to do offensively. And if May can't do it or can't do it consistently, that's an issue.
Yeah. But the nice part is that I think these were a small subset of the plays he had, and he was consistently able to get them out of the holes that the offense dug itself. That first possession that he's in there, first play is a bad snap. And the Patriots end up back at their own 4-yard line at a 2nd and 18.
Yeah.
You see May with a quick pass out of that to Polk to move up and get out of your own end zone. And then he, on 3rd and 14, takes off with his legs, picks up the first down. He looked fast out there picking that up and moves the chains. So you make a mistake, you have a quarterback that is capable of erasing the mistake. How often did we see these mistakes last season with nobody on the offense even capable of overcoming it on any consistent basis? Later in the drive, you get a run stuff on first down. You end up in 2nd and 12. That's when he passes Thornton for 4 yards. You end up in 3rd and 8. And that was the deep over to Pop Douglas to pick it up, which I thought he didn't. I thought that throw was not the most accurate. He led Pop Douglas back into the defender and created contact, but he still put it on him. Pop Douglas still made the catch. And I think that's one of those where it's like, it's not ideal. You want him to improve. It's still good enough that he can be on the field making those mistakes. You're not in like bad miss territory. And being able to do all that on what ended up being your touchdown drive with Kevin Harris taking that throw and running after the catch with a fantastic play. That whole drive was the highlight of the night.
Well, here's the thing about the Kevin Harris play. Great play by Harris, obviously, right? NBC, I think, was it NBC Sports tweeted out Damian Harris, but great play by Kevin Harris, obviously. Here's the thing about this, which I think is interesting. If Mac Jones throws that pass to pick six, when he threw it originally, I was like, oh God, because there's a defender breaking on that ball as he's throwing it. But he's got the arm strength to just put some zip on that ball. It gets to Harris so quick. It wasn't even close to being intercepted. It wasn't even close. And when I first watched it, I was thinking, as it's happening, I'm like, oh God, this is going to be a disaster. And it wasn't. And it just
flashback to the Dallas game.
Really, I'm sitting there watching like, oh my God, dude, this is going to be a nightmare. And turns it into a touchdown. Of course, great play by Harris, but it was one of those things where it's like, yeah, no, Mac's not getting that ball to him. It's just not happening. And so I think there was Bailey Zappi or whatever, so it just kind of is what it is. And so I think you see those things from May having the ability to run, he's great at it. The ability to make those passes and put some extra zip on it when he has to. I think that's that was impressive. And I thought Gibson looked good at. Someone is pissed about Gibson or something. I don't know what he's talking
Gibson
about.
Didn't play much, but I thought he looked good.
But I thought when he was out there, he looked good. So,
and I will say the guys on Patriots.com, their post-game show, they mentioned that May has been making those throws all camp. I haven't seen him been getting picked off on that. And
Right.
when we were first starting to get into the college quarterback scouting for this past cycle, I remember one of the things I said about May is that at times he makes decisions like Mac Jones, but the plays work out. And the difference is he's a better athlete, and he's able to actually convert some of these ideas that Mac has, and he's able to cash the checks that Mac Jones's body just can't do.
Right.
And you saw that with that play tonight. And that wasn't the only one. I mean, he had some throws in just weird pockets. I mean, this is a lot of people have made the point that if the offensive line is playing poorly, it should be Jacoby Brissett in there because you don't want to ruin a young quarterback. And I understand that. But I think there is another side to this coin, which is that if the offensive line is playing poorly, Drake May is the athlete you want back there because he can make plays happen even when there's a nightmare situation around him. He can run with it. He can throw off platform.
That's
he
correct.
can make plays down the field when the pocket's muddy in a way that we haven't seen a quarterback be able to do in New England in a while here.
That throw to Osborne was insane. Didn't count.
Yeah.
It was insane. Running to his left, throwing off platform like that, 45 yards downfield, like it was nothing.
He made it look easy. And, I think if the team thinks that the pressure and the poor offensive line play and all that will negatively impact him, then that's a good reason to not have him out there. But if they think he is capable of handling the chaos, then he's better suited for it than Jacoby Brissett is.
Agreed. Yep. All right, let's get to the offensive line because the offensive line was an absolute train wreck, just a nightmare. We mentioned Leverett already. David Andrews did not play in this game, and it seems like he might be the most important person on the offense. But I'm interested to see what happens. City So, we talked about it off air. Like, I'm worried that's an Achilles injury. That's what I'm worried it is. I don't know if it's going to be or not. But even if it isn't, I should say, you got to think if he's leaving in a walking boot, right? He's probably going to miss the game in 2 weeks, right? And so maybe not, but I don't know. It's usually not a good sign. And so if he's out, well, I have no idea what they do. Well, I assume they're going to have to move Layden Robinson to left guard, move Mike Onwenu back to right guard, and then something with the tackles, I guess, right? Like Vidarian Lowe and a Okorafor, I guess, on the right, or Caden Walsh. I have no idea what they're going to do. What's his name? Couldn't even line up right. Like Okorafor couldn't even line up right.
Or Onwenu. They both got flagged. I think that each of them got flagged twice for illegal formation.
He got flagged 3 times. What's his name? Okorafor. I got flagged 3 times. Onwenu got flagged once. And now, by the way, Onwenu may have been, just as far back as Okorafor was, and they called it on Okorafor, not Onwenu, but you get the idea.
Yeah. It was a rough night, and that's the issue for the offensive line right now is that your best tackle, or at least one of your top 2 tackles, is Vidarian Lowe. He's injured. Cole Strange is going to be out for a while, presumably. City So is now injured, ruled out quickly, seen in a walking boot, and he injured his ankle. We know it was his ankle, according to the injury report, by trying to sustain a block going backwards. There was no twisting motion. There was no rolling motion. He didn't hit anything. It's just him trying to plant into the ground, and then his ankle got hurt. And that is that's Achilles, that's high ankle sprain. I'm not really sure what else you're going to be injuring there. So that is, high ankle sprain is going to be, 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, textbook.
And can also linger the whole season. You can come back from them and still not really be healthy. Sometimes that's you're not 100% until the season after type of injury.
Right.
Obviously, Achilles, that's usually a full year recovery type thing. So that is a if it's either one of those, that's going to be tough for New England. Hopefully, City So is all right, and they don't have to get to that. But the guard play has not looked good, even when they were in their City So. I didn't think looked great tonight when he did play.
Yeah.
Stepping on Drake May at one point, who made a throw without a shoe on completion. And I think he had a holding penalty in there. So did he.
Yep.
He was rough. Leverett obviously was not good, but we'll jump over that for now because David Andrews is presumably going to be your starter.
Right.
Layden Robinson really struggled. I think he had multiple penalties. He had a tough night. And I think that puts you in a scenario where, you kind of have to leave Michael Onwenu inside because your guard depth isn't there.
Right.
You'd be hoping Cole Strange could play for you. He's hurt. City So looks like he's hurt. Layden Robinson is probably going to have to play, and that's probably going to be rough at the start. And I think if Adarian Lowe is back by week 1, I think the only line you can start week 1 is from left to right, Lowe, Robinson, Andrews, Onwenu, Okorafor.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's another 5 you could reasonably put out there right now based on performance.
Right. And the hard thing is
assuming Lowe's back and So is hurt.
Right. I thought Caden Wallace looked okay tonight. Did get flagged for holding call. Of course, wasn't accepted because of Joe Milton got tackled. I think it was on 3rd and 5 or something like that, and Joe Milton ran for a yard or something like that. So, but I haven't seen enough from Caden Wallace to really kind of say that he can't do it. But he also hasn't really won the job either. Obviously, they don't like what they've seen from him because they've used a million guys over him, and so maybe it ends up that he has to be some sort of stopgap. They have said multiple times that they're going to claim guys on waivers, but who are you going to get? You know what I mean? That's what I don't know, and so. That's the hard thing, right? And there are people advocating for, at this point, you should have overpaid Jordan Williams or overpaid Illuminor or whatever. First of all, Jermaine Illuminor, he ain't the answer, dude. We've seen him. He ain't the answer. Maybe he played better in a different system, but he's going to come back here and play well again. I don't know. I don't see it. Yeah, I don't know. And so
they're in a tough spot. I mean, the issue right now is that their depth is what's taking a hit. If they were in this situation,
right?
But at least Calvin Anderson would be healthy, and at least Cole Strange would be healthy. Then it's at least we got more bodies, more options we can throw at this and try to make something work. Right now they're limited there. There's not a lot of guys who have played well enough to be considered for the 53-man roster. And right now, 2 or 3 of those guys are hurt.
Right.
You're in a situation right now where somebody like a Michael Jordan or an Antonio Mafi might make your initial 53 if City So is hurt because you need to. Michael, I'll have to go back and rewatch. Michael Jordan, I didn't think looked bad when they put him out there. I didn't notice the difference when it was City So swapped for Michael Jordan at left guard. So maybe
it's possible.
Maybe he's good enough that you can make that work. But man, the other option is to put Leverett at guard instead of center.
Well, that's the other part of it is that he is a decent player, and so he's just not really a center. He can play guard, and so that is kind of that next option for them. So, we'll see. I just and I keep coming back to it. And I don't want to harp on it, but I keep coming back to the fact that last year was the year to address the tackle situation. Right? It was last year, not this year. Last year, when you had 3 legitimate starting tackles available in the free agent market. You had to throw a bag at those guys, but you had a ton of money. You could have thrown a bag at any of those guys, and instead you brought in Riley Reif and Calvin Anderson. Of course, Calvin Anderson has the malaria thing, but he doesn't look like a world beater right now. A year later, Riley Reif was terrible, didn't even make the team. So those are things like that's the issue where it's like you had an opportunity last year and you didn't do it. And then you had an opportunity to draft a tackle. And instead you drafted a backup center in Jake Andrews, who still hasn't played a game because he's been hurt. You drafted a guard in Antonio Mafi, and you drafted a guy who had never played tackle in college, City So, and said, we're going to put him at right tackle. Just complete insanity. Insanity. And so then City So has to move to guard. At least this year, there were no guys in the free agent market. At least they drafted a tackle. At the very least, they needed a left tackle. They drafted a right tackle, but it doesn't matter. They drafted someone. Right. And so, like, it's just this wasn't addressed. It should have been addressed. It should have been addressed years ago, and it wasn't. And that's really the issue.
I like the 2022 first round, taking Cole Strange instead of finding a way to get a tackle there, I think is one you're going to really look back and regret. But this is where New England is now. The line is not going to be good this year. But remember last year when the wide receivers had those shirts that were like, no one is coming or whatever? Like, that's the offensive line right now. Like, they're going to – and it's not no one because they're going to make moves here. I'm going to have my 53-man roster projection, I think, coming out in the morning.
Yeah.
As it stands right now, I got 52 men on the 53 because I think they're going to claim somebody or they're going to trade for somebody. They're going to sign somebody. I think, especially with the injuries on the offensive line, that is a necessity. But the performance there, it hasn't been good enough. You're going to look for other options and see what you can do. The problem is you're going to be picking from players that other teams don't want. So you're going to bring in options. It's not necessarily going to make it any better than what it is right now. So you still got to be counting on some level of internal improvement to make this work. You need David Andrews to play well. You need Michael Onwenu to look like Michael Onwenu. You need Vidarian Lowe to look like the Vidarian Lowe we saw week 2 of the preseason. Like,
right.
I'm less worried about tackle right now in some ways than I am about guard, because I think when they had Lowe and Okorafor out there week 2 of the preseason, they got bad but like acceptable tackle play. And you can live with that, especially if you have a mobile quarterback. But you can't live as a running team with guards who weren't playing well. And the biggest issue is the penalties right now. Everybody's getting penalties. That's the issue with Okorafor too, is that they keep getting the illegal formation penalties because he's lined up too far off the line of scrimmage, which they really only started paying attention to this year. This is like an point of emphasis this year. And it's just because, tackles are used to trying to line up as far back as they possibly can to give themselves more help as a pass blocker. It gives them more room to work. And Okorafor has just tried a little too much. And Gerard Mayo, I don't know if you heard this after the game, Pat. He was asked about it. And he was basically like, yep, the refs warned us. They told us. We got flagged. And we kept doing it.
Right.
And that's not acceptable. And that's all there is to it. I think you got to question Scott Peters a lot right now, because we're talking about mental errors across multiple offensive linemen, across multiple games now, which you can't have. I don't think that's just Scott Peters. I think it goes to the offensive coordinator as well. We are literally talking about the coordination of the offense and guys not being on the same page, not lining up in the right spot. So that has to stop. Like, these offensive linemen are not good enough to win consistently when things go right for them. You've got no shot when you're consistently putting yourself behind the chains with dumb penalties. You can't do it. You can't win with it. You certainly can't win with it. It's hard to play with it. Like, you're not going to be on the field.
Right. Yeah, no, it's bad. It's really bad. Yeah. By the way, just so we're on the same page, you mentioned 2022 and the Patriots like kicking themselves not drafting a tackle. Pick 24, which Tyler Smith. Yeah. They were at 21. They moved back to 29. Pick 24 was Tyler Smith.
Yeah, that's exactly who I was thinking of.
And so again, it's mismanagement. It's thinking that you had the guys in place when you didn't. You didn't have the guys in place. if you just signed Ted Karras and you drafted Tyler Smith at pick 21, you've solved your problem. And instead, now you have this disaster of a problem at offensive line. And unfortunately, it just becomes a situation, and there's a lot of people to blame. But again, it's like, yeah, okay, I guess someone cut someone maybe, and you can get some guy possibly, but it's like, it's brutal.
Yeah. I will say, for all the issues we're talking about here, when Drake May was in the game with this offensive line that we're talking about, they moved the ball and they scored their only touchdown. Like, they did show some stuff, and wide receiver is not going to be like a position of strength for them just yet. But I think you saw flashes. Jalen Polk had some real nice plays. That over where May hits him in stride and picks up a ton of yards was really, really nice from everybody involved. Pop Douglas, I think he's a good player. Taekwon didn't do much, didn't get a ton of opportunities, but when he did, he made catches.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, and this is, they don't have their starting tight ends out there at all right now. Guys are banged up. And when it's the real offense, whenever Drake May does play, in theory, it's still going to be Polk out there, and it's going to be Pop, but it'll be Hunter Henry, and it's going to be Ramondre Stevenson. So I'm less worried about the skill positions. I don't think they're where they need to be there, but they're, good enough to be on an NFL field. Polk looks like a rookie who's developing, who shows flashes. Pop Douglas looks like a young receiver who shows flashes. These guys look like they can turn into good players. And you got some solid veterans there. So, it's the offensive line. This is going to come down to. I think they have a quarterback like May who has shown he's passed your initial tests that you want when you draft somebody high at quarterback.
Yeah.
He's not like a bust out of the gate. You got a couple of young offensive skill players who you think you can try to develop into something and have shown enough here. I thought Jalen Baker had his best preseason game today too.
Yeah. Had that one bad one where he came down out of bounds, but other than that, he looked good.
And it's like, all right, skill position wise, we're going in the right direction.
Mm-hmm.
Offensive line wise, we are not. This might be rock bottom this year, and we might spend the next however many months watching Texas and LSU, and watching the tackles in this year's draft, just waiting for one of them to be wearing navy blue and red.
Right. Yep. And that's kind of where we're headed, I think. So, all right, let's take a quick break. Let's get to the defense, and then we got to get the heck out of here because it's 1 o'clock.
Yeah, it's late.
Here we go. Prize Picks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. Prize Picks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps, on Prize Picks, it's just you against the numbers. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. You can now win up to 100 times your money on Prize Picks with as little as 4 correct picks. That means you can turn $10 into $1,000. Now, 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right. Only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free wins. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks because it's gone when September ends. Now, for me, I'm kind of going for that full year projections there. So I'm going Patrick Mahomes for more than 4,300 passing yards and for Aaron Rodgers for less than 3,750 passing yards because it's the Jets. You know they're going to screw up somehow. So download the Prize Picks app today and use the code CLNS for a first deposit match up to $100. That's code CLNS on Prize Picks for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Run your game. All right. So, defensively, I thought there was some good defensively. I think the linebackers, the depth specifically at linebackers, right? Really, to me, there were 3 guys there. I thought Christian Ellis played well. I feel like Christian Ellis has kind of secured a roster spot as much as he can, at least. And then, the 2 linebackers I was looking at was Giles Harris. I'm sorry. And then is it Michael? What the heck's his name? King. It's a
William Bradley King.
Thank you, William Bradley King.
Yeah, and he had Drescher there.
Yep, he had that nice play on third down when they converted. He had that nice twist where he got it. He got a good pressure on the guy, and he just made a nice throw. But those two guys, I feel like, are fighting for a roster spot as well. Maybe that last defensive player, let's say. And I was happy to see both of them played well. Obviously, Giles Harris had the pick. He's been all over the field. Got banged up for a bit, but then came back in. Actually, Christian Ellis got banged up for a bit as
They
well.
both did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is something I'm watching because I thought it was neck and neck with Ellis and Giles Harris, and I think like Ellis made more tackles. Giles Harris had the pick. They both play special teams. They both played really well. They're both banged up. So let's see the injury situation there. It's probably going to be just one of them that makes the roster.
Yeah.
I do think there's a world here where neither makes the roster. They sneak both through to the practice squad, claim some people off waivers or whatever, and use some game day elevations too. Like that's totally possible. And either one of those guys, I'm not really worried about either one getting claimed. But no, I think their backup linebacker play has been good. William Bradley King, I don't think he's a roster guy, but I think he's shown enough to be a practice squad guy. That play he made was really nice. Defensively, it's still tough to evaluate this backfield. I thought Joshua Bledsoe had his best game of
Definitely
the preseason, which this is a game to me where I was like, Del Pettis can lock up a roster spot, I think. And then I thought Josh Bledsoe was the safety that stood out to me.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Corner wise, it's the same thing where I think there's a lot of corners that have a good argument to make this roster. And I think that Alex Austin, Marco Wilson, and Isaiah Bolden are probably all going to make it. And then they might keep one more, and that's between Shaun Wade and Marcellus Dial. And I think Shaun Wade is the better player right now. He's much better in coverage. Dial's a good special teamer. He's been good there when they've used him. So I don't know which way they're going to come down on that. I think they could cut both and put them on the practice squad if they wanted to. I think if the Patriots wanted, they could cut this thing down to 51, 50, 49 and get all the guys they want to the practice squad and just claim a bunch of players and see what happens because I think that was the issue tonight across the roster is that there are roster spots to be had, and I'm not sure how much winning of roster spots there was during the game tonight. I look at the tight end 3 battle, and I think it's going to be Jaheim Bell with Wilcox injured. Bell didn't do anything special tonight that makes me think you have to keep him on the roster. I know I'm going back to the offense here. I'm going to just go through the roster. The end of the roster wide receiver battle, Jalen Reagor and Kayshon Boutte both zip on the score sheet.
Right.
They didn't do anything. So I don't know what to do with that roster battle. If they cut both of them, I don't think that would shock anyone. Offensive line battle, I want to get into the tape on this to see how Michael Jordan looked, but nobody's jumping off the tape there to claim a roster spot. I think there's behind Godshaw, Aquale, and Farms, there's a defensive tackle spot up for grabs, and nobody stood off the tape there. It was a guy that you have to include on the roster. He only got 1 sack tonight. That was Keon White.
Yeah.
Yeah, linebackers I think was an exception because I thought Giles Harris and Ellis both played very well. But corner was a spot where I didn't think anybody was claiming roster spots. Safety, like I said, Del Pettis had a chance, and Bledsoe played better. So I think this almost muddied the waters from an outside perspective on who's going to make the roster more than it clarified things.
Right. Well, and Mitchell Wilcox doesn't play, whether he's hurt or whatever the case may be. He's a little banged up, right?
No Armin Watts, no Calvin Anderson. Both of those guys banged up and don't play, who should have had a chance to fight for a spot.
And so I thought, but I did think that I actually thought Jaheim Bell played okay. He only had a few catches, but you could see some of that, especially on the crossing route that he caught, being covered. I think I don't think it was a corner, it must have been a safety, but he outran him to the sideline. So
I mean, he's not. He had 2 catches for 22 yards. It wasn't bad. It's just I think those came late in the game, and it's not bad.
No,
but
I
he
get it.
did have
I understand,
opportunities
but
with
he's
the
not.
starters, and you'd
Yeah.
love to see him take advantage, and I didn't. And if they cut Bell and stuck with Wilcox, I do not think that should come as a shock to anyone.
No.
I don't.
I think that's where they should go, to be
I
honest,
don't.
in my opinion.
I don't think Wilcox has been that good, but he's just like super professional and solid enough at most things. I think he's more game ready right now than Bell is. Wouldn't shock me if they kept both of those guys. I think the back end of this roster is a mess right now because there's so many players you can make an argument for, and basically every single one of them will land on the practice squad if they get cut. They're going to clear waivers.
Right. But that's the thing is for me is that you can make an argument for them being on the team, but then at the same time, you're like, they're just not that good. Like the Patriots just don't have a lot of talent.
Yeah,
If you
cut Jalen Reagor or Kayshon Boutte, you can get another player of that quality
Correct.
very easily. Same with
Correct.
your corners and your defensive linemen, and your safety is like
right.
It's not.
That's the thing. There's no one that's like, oh, you can't. Jaheim Bell to me is a must keep because I feel like someone will take a chance on him. Maybe not, but I think he's shown enough. He's made a little bit of progress in his blocking, not much, but a little bit, and he's shown a little bit, that he's got some speed, relative to other tight ends at least, and I just think that it's worth a shot at taking a chance at a guy like that, to be your second or third tight end,
Well, this is also the type of roster environment where a team keeps 4 quarterbacks too. Like I said, he didn't, when we did our roster bubble thing, I said, I don't see a path for Bailey Zappi to make the roster. And you watch the game tonight and it's like, he's not good, but is he one of the 53 best players?
Yeah, but it
doesn't.
Probably. But to me, it doesn't matter. Like, to me, it doesn't matter. Why do you keep him? You're just wasting. You're just burning a roster spot.
If you view it as you got the 53 roster spots plus the practice squad spots, and you just want to optimize for, who's going to be on each spot where you think you can get players. This is going to be the least impactful cut down day in New England in a while because there's really nobody I'm remotely concerned about personally getting claimed by somebody else.
Well, you're right. The corner depth is brutal. Like, there's not a lot of guys. Even like a guy like Del Pettis, who I like. I don't think he's going to get claimed by anyone. Deshaun Fenwick. You want to talk about the end of the end of the running back depth with Terrell Jennings and Deshaun Fenwick, and it's like I like those guys. Even Kevin Harris, I like those guys. Kevin Harris obviously had that really nice play, but like, I don't know. We're going to really miss those guys? I don't know. Like,
you can cut the running back room down to 2 and get everybody back on the practice squad if you wanted. That wouldn't be an issue when it comes to getting guys through waivers. Just the state of this roster right now. You could get a lot of players. You could cut a lot of guys.
And what's funny is that, so Video Fox, I'm just going to pull up his comment here because he talks about Ben Sinnott, who, of course, was drafted by Washington. Really wanted Sinnott because he thinks
favorite
he's
of the pod right there.
True two-way tight end. Of course, we talked about him a ton, but like the NFL values guys like that, guys that can block and catch. We saw it last year with Luke Shoemaker, right? I'm like, hey, you could draft Luke Shoemaker in the 5th round. It's fine. He went in the 2nd round last year, right? And he went a lot earlier because tight ends typically can't do both things. They can't block and catch the ball. And so he can block and catch the ball. Great, right? And of course, you got the kid that Pittsburgh drafted, Darnell Washington. Of course, he's a monster, but like not really a pass catcher. But like, again, a guy that I'd take a chance on, they just took him a lot earlier because tight end is a position it's hard to play. And so, I don't know. I don't know if they're finding another tight end, to be honest with you. And you also got to remember now, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper both didn't play. So like, they were starting with tight end 3 today.
Oh yeah. It's just, we'll see how healthy those guys are week 1, but like, I don't know. I think you could cut down to 2 tight ends if you wanted, and you wouldn't have to worry about waivers that much. Like, it's just, they can go a lot of different ways with this Tuesday, and it wouldn't surprise me. So I think my message to anybody listening right now is go in with an open mind to Tuesday and do not overreact to any cuts that you see, because the final picture will not come together until they put everybody together on the practice squad and re-sign players. We see who gets through waivers. We see who they claim. Like, that is when we're going to find out what this actually looks like. And a lot of players who may have played a ton for them in the preseason, and they think they can just find somebody better off waivers. So,
Which they
hopefully
might
they
be able
do.
to. Yeah. So, all right, let's we have to take one more break, and then we'll get a few final thoughts, and we're out of here.
Should we do
Nothing is better than football season. And football season is so much better at the game. Of course, I have season tickets to the Patriots, and I love going to Patriots games every year. The tailgate experience is incredible. And, just being there with family and friends is unbeatable. But this year, I'm actually making a trip all the way out to Notre Dame to see a college football game for the first time. And I'm so excited about that atmosphere as well. Now, Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats that you don't have to waste any time searching through thousands of tickets. Now, for this Notre Dame game, I did go on the Game Time app. I searched through the Game Time Picks. I found the tickets I want, and I bought them. But here's the thing that's even better about Game Time Picks, because they have all-in pricing at Game Time. And that makes it so much easier, because I'm not looking at the ticket saying, oh, it's this price, and then I get to the checkout line and it's $80 more expensive. No. That's not happening. I can actually see how much I'm going to pay before I do anything else, before I actually pay for my tickets. And that makes buying tickets so much easier. Now, you can take the guesswork out of buying concert tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
All right, so let's do a quick little stock up, stock down. You want to start? Or you want me to start?
I think we can. I'll let you start.
All right. So first stock up is the easiest one. I'm going to take the easiest one because let me go first. Drake May. Drake May's stock is way up at this point. It's hard to watch him play tonight and not think that he is the best quarterback on the team. And, Gerard Mayo can say all he wants that Jacoby Brissett's the best quarterback on the team, but I'm watching the game like everyone else is watching the game. And I don't know how anyone could say that other than the fact that, maybe he can't run the offense exactly the way they want him to.
I'm going to go stock up Kevin Harris. Did not know that man had feet that nimble, or hands that were that nice. Nice to see him shake a defender, explode out with the ball in his hands there and dive into the end zone for the touchdown. Spectacular highlight reel play. And that kind of creativity after the catch is something that New England has been looking for. So, would love to see more of that from Kevin Harris.
Love it. Stock down for me. Stock down. There's a few I could go with. There's a lot I could go with.
A lot of options there.
But I'm going to go on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to go with Azizi Hearn. I just think that, him, Mikey Victor, they just look bad tonight. It's just bad.
Yeah, this should have been. Obviously, results don't matter in preseason, but this should have been a win. And the defense did not perform well. Like the very bottom of the roster against Washington's bottom of the roster did not perform well.
Yeah,
the corners were part of that. I'm gonna go stock down Nick Leverett.
Pretty obvious.
I'll go back. Yeah, I'll go back to like the bubble watch thing and that framing for any college basketball fans. This happens sometimes, where a team in like mid-February will be a lock to make March Madness because they've just done enough. It's obvious that they're going to make the tournament. And then everything falls apart. And they get to conference tournament week, and they're the 4 seed in their tournament, and they lose to the 13 seed or whatever. And you're sitting there, and you're like, they should still make it. But man, why is this as close as it is?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Nick Leverett right now, because he's the backup center who has issues snapping the ball. And his play strength has looked weak to me. He has gotten really pushed back on a number of occasions, which you cannot have at that spot. Like, that spot in particular, unacceptable. And, like, I think there's a scenario. I don't think they're going to straight up cut him, but I think there's a scenario here where they trade for a center to have as a backup. And if they trade for a center, then they might cut Nick Leverett, because this obviously I think depends on the health of City So as well. But if they like what they've seen overall from Layden Robinson and the growth despite some poor performance tonight, and they think that Cole Strange is going to be back this season, might look at Leverett and say, we don't think you're one of our best guards if we play you there. You haven't been good enough at center. We're going to bring in another body, and good luck on another team, which I don't think he should be on this roster. I think he's one of the 53 best players, but there's no reason it should be this close. And his play, as we've gotten through the preseason, has gotten worse and worse.
Yeah. No, that's bad. That's bad. And you can really pick the stock down for the entire offensive line, right? Everyone that played offensive line for the Patriots tonight, stock down.
Who didn't get a penalty is my question. Like, there's not that many.
Not many. And
I think 14 flags on the Pats tonight.
Yeah, it was bad.
Not all of them accepted, but like, whew.
Right. But it's just one of those things where it just can't happen. Cannot happen.
Accepted penalties. 10 penalties, 157 yards. Part of that is the big yardage on the pass interference penalty.
Yeah.
But so that's averaging 15.7 yards per flag. That's
not good.
Unacceptable.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really rough stuff there. So do we just give a stock down? I think that's a stock down to the coaching staff right there.
I agree.
That these guys are not that disciplined.
Yeah.
On the interception return from Giles Harris, I mentioned guys who are fighting for roster spots. Tristan Hill got a penalty for an illegal block on it for going out of his way to hit somebody, and I like the attitude. But this is something I mentioned at the joint practice, was that I noticed that the Patriots guys are a little bit rougher around the edges than the Eagles players. Tristan Hill was a guy who was involved in that. He was somebody who made a full tackle when you were not supposed to. And you add that up with a 15-yard penalty, I think that was, on an interception return because you wanted to hit somebody. That is tough. I can't say, other things have been going on in camp, but it's hard to have backups who are undisciplined because coaches are not going to trust to put you on the field.
Yeah, it's not good. So, man, yeah.
Can I end on a good note with a stock up?
Let's do it.
Jalen Polk, baby. Stock up Jalen Polk.
Mm-hmm.
He looked good tonight.
He looked good, and he looked fast, I thought.
Yeah.
And so there's been a lot of questions about, do they have any speed? He's a crisp route runner, and he's got unbelievable hands, fantastic hands. And so, he's a guy that should be in their starting rotation right away. I think will be in their starting rotation right away. And whether it's Brissett or May, I think that he's going to have, he's not going to be like rookie of the year or something stupid like Jamar Chase was his rookie year, anything like that. Like, not anything like that. But I do think that, that could be a situation where he turns out to be a pretty good player. And you're going after a guy like CeeDee Lamb next year in free agency. And if you can get him, you're rolling out him, Polk, and Pop Douglas and feeling really good about it.
I think the other scenario here is like you just keep drafting receivers too. Like, we'll see what Tyquan turns into this year, but he seems to have earned himself a nice role. Yep. Demario Douglas is one of your better receivers. If Polk turns into something and Baker develops throughout the year, Osborne's not going to be back after the season. You wouldn't need him. He'll go to another team, and you bring back Kendrick Bourne probably, unless you're willing to trade him somewhere. But I think you just draft another receiver if you like somebody, because you just keep taking shots at it and see if you can keep developing guys, because maybe just maybe the fortune turns around and you pump out a couple good receivers in a row and turn them into something. That'd be pretty nice.
Yeah.
If you keep drafting them, eventually they're going to hit. That's for sure.
Agreed. So
Yeah. All right. Cut down, sir. Tuesday, 4:00.
Tuesday at 4, we're going to be live Tuesday at 9:45, our normal time. But instead of Monday, we're doing Tuesday instead. We'll do it. It'll be like a special cut down episode. And so we'll be there, and then we're going to be live Thursday night. The plan is to do a fantasy football special on Thursday night. So still working out to make sure people can go, but we'll figure it out from there. What we've done in the past is kind of like a full, maybe not full, but like a 10-round mock draft where we can then kind of talk about different players that are going different spots and things like that. So,
And then the week after that, it's game
week, baby.
We'll be into that Wednesday, Sunday schedule.
Yep. So, anyway, so that's what we got. So, All right, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciated you. Look at 65 viewers at 1:22 in the morning. So, thank you for coming through. We appreciate it.
Love it.
And if you listen the next day, no shame if you listen the next day. It's totally fine. But we appreciate you listening anyways, as always. Have a great night, morning, I should say. And and we'll see you guys on Tuesday night.